Alright, so this is the direction we're going with our snowy background. For the smaller stuff, we're going to take our duster stippler and we're going to just stipple the snow. And we're using slate gray. Okay, then we're going to go into, and you can use, actually also, you could, when we get into the snowman, this is a really big guy, and this is a texture brush, an oval texture brush. So for the small stuff, you can use the smaller brush, and the big stuff, the bigger. Alright, so then what we're going to do is we're going to create kind of snow on top. It doesn't have to be wet and wet. We're not really going for a blend. We're just looking for that kind of open texture. And we're going to shade on top so that it becomes like this. So you can see where we're starting. And then we'll get out white, and I'm using whitewash. You could use Snow White if you wanted to. My white is empty. Now if you're going to do it wet and wet like I'm about to do, then you're going to want to be very scant with your paint. Okay, and you don't want to over blend it because you want to definitely see the white. And so I'm just touching, I'm not pressing, you're not hearing me pound. I'm just tapping. Go back. And now watch the difference if you use the oval texture brush. That's going to be finer. So if you don't want as chunky as snow, then go in with your oval texture brush. I kind of like that little bit of a blended technique. And so see how that's very domed? You're going to get a really nice texture with that. Okay, so you're going to do all of these steps like this and get them all up to this level on all of your snowy areas, including your big old snowman. Okay, when you get into the middle of the snowman, go ahead and I'm going to stipple the white in the main area. I'm going to leave it a little chunkier to the outside edges. Then I'm going to use my oval texture brush, pardon all the sound, to kind of just smooth it out and even it out and give him just a little bit more of a, I'm a big ball of snow. And leave it just that little bit textury on the outside edges. And then we'll do the same thing down here. I'm in the white color right now and I've got my two colors of gray on. Oh, the second color of gray is gray sky and then white. Alright, so I've got my base coats done and we're going to add some Crackle Medium on these pieces. So I think what I want to do is add just a nice thin coat of weathered wood. That's what it looks like. And this is a Crackle Medium that is chemically induced and not wet and dry induced. So what that means is you can let it go all the way dry, and then when you put your other medium on top, the two chemicals are going to go away from each other. So some Crackle Mediums do it because of time, and this is not one of these. And it doesn't matter which direction you put the Crackle Medium on, it matters which direction you put your top on for which direction the cracks will crack. That was a lot of words there, sorry. So I'm just going to put a very thin coat as thin as you can get it. It's kind of slimy, a little pasty. So try to spread it out thin, otherwise you get these weird little puddles. And if you see any of those forming, go ahead and stroke it thinner. And then after it's dry, I'll be back. Okay, we're going to do all of the different areas basically the same. So I'm going to show you up here on the face, and then we'll just repeat on the other two sections. So we're going to go in with our dome brush, and we're using the Media Paint Cobalt Teal hue. And we're going to dry rub into the corners. And that's just going to be your little shading. And if you go over some of your base coats, then we won't worry about that. We'll just give it another little quick base coat. You always want to go over the base coat and into the base coat just a little bit instead of avoiding it, because then you get weird little triangles and stuff. Okay, so that's, we're just sinking his little face down in that scarf. And then we'll pull it out just a little bit. Okay, that's going to give him just a little bit of color. And if I wanted to, I could go in with a little bit of white, but I think this blue is kind of making him, giving him that, like the roundness that I want. Okay, so I'll switch brushes. I'll go into my big oval glaze, and I'm going to go into a little bit of the Wild Orchid. blot my brush a little bit. And then I'll go over the top of those media paints and just give him that little bit of purple in the corners. And like I said, I'll just patch those base coats. And then that just gives him, like it went from blue to purple out there. And then we're going to use a teeny bit of uniform blue, but I'm going to have to wait till this dries. So I'll go work on my other two areas. It's a good idea to do all of your steps first. And this is the same colors as we're doing in the snow as well. So I would use my dirty brush and then just go all the way down through. Okay, so I've got my little areas done, just a shade and round. And then I'm going to go down to the bottom. I'm going to give it some shadow and just different lumps of snowiness. And then we'll shade and kind of morph around on it. This is all just going to be just like squint your eyes and make some pretty stuff happen. Look at the color for, picture for placement. So we just want hints of blue down in here. And kind of blocked, like it was snowdrifts or whatever. By the time we layer everything, you won't be able to tell what's going on anyway. Okay, and I'm on the bases, and so I'm just going to go in those corners, tuck that out, tuck that in, sprinkle some snow around here and there. Just get some nice little color going on. Alright, and we're going to tuck in a little bit of, I don't know which color I've got here, Union Blue. It's one of those colors I don't use very often. So I'm just going to tuck it over into the corners where things are going to be deepest and darkest. And it's just going to kind of layer those colors together. I don't want the snowman to get too dark. Just where he's tucked. And we're going to repeat that on all the areas. Okay, and then at the base, we're going to go do the same thing. Am I dry? Yeah, pretty dry. I like this layered look because you can see just a little bit of each of the colors. And that just really does add the depth. Okay, and then we need to come up under his belly. This oval glaze is so nice for shading with because it has this big side over here to keep nice and clean, so I can do all that swooping and stuff and you can't, and it blends for me. Like it takes a lot of the work out. Like it looks like I'm floating with a ginormous brush, but I'm not really doing that. I'm kind of just glazing. Okay, and then I get back and I look to see if I feel like I've blended enough. If I want it a little bit choppy, a little bit artistic. I feel like his head could use just a teeny bit more up under his hat. Now that's more base coat almost than anything. And then I can come down here and say, well, maybe I need just a little bit more something going on underneath his scarf, just so that everything isn't flat. And then we want to go ahead and shade underneath his scarf here. And I think we'll give him just a little bit deeper base down here. That just is going to cut that corner, make him look a little bit anchored. And I've got to squint. When I'm looking up in the camera monitor, I'm seeing that it's a little bit dark down here. So that may be something that I'll want to change and lighten up, but I'm not done yet. This is a process. Okay, but we got good separation. Go maybe just a little bit more. And then we'll go down into the snow. My brush is getting dry, so you definitely want this to be glazy, so your brush needs to be a little bit wet to be able to float. And we'll do the bases the same on all of them, and we'll skip the glittering and the snowflakes for last, because we don't want to do that right away. Okay, and then I have my example someplace. Okay, so I don't have too much, and I actually used a grayer blue over here, so I'm going to put a little bit of this blue in there. I like the bluer. And since this is so long, we'll just dip some blue down in there. Okay, and then this is getting a little bit purple and blue looking, so I'm going to go back in with some white. Alright, now we're going to take a big shop towel and a dome brush, and we're going to dry rub in the middle of our snowman features to build roundness and give them a highlight. Now I'm not wiping it all off like I normally do. I'm just wiping off the bulk of it. And we'll go in his face. And then, like I said, I'll just redo my base coats, but now I've got everything kind of exactly where it should be. Oops, paper towel. And that gives us some smoothness. And it gives us our roundness. And we'll go down here on the snow and we'll create our little wintry mounds. And these can be little blowing mounds. So you can just kind of swirl. Doesn't need to be static. Yeah, I like the swirlies. I think that's a good touch. Alright, so I'm going to get my base coats on. I'm going to use a wider brush than I would normally use for basing, because I'm going to just be laying my color down. So I'm going to get up here. I want my cracks to go up and down, so I'm going to stroke in that direction. I'm going to lay my paint color down and then draw it down. Lay my paint color down and then draw it down. Real thick. Real thick. And don't overlap and don't play. If you play, you will lift every time. And be careful of your direction. If I start going sideways down here, I run the risk of making sideways cracks, and I don't want that. Okay, so for the stick, and actually you can see, let's get in there close. Sorry, my table is such a mess. You can see that it is actively cracking as we go, but see, I did it really thick. You can see like the ridges and stuff in the paint. But for whatever reason, when you go over Crackle Medium, it tends to flatten itself out. And it doesn't do that any other time you do base coats, but it does when you do weathered wood. Okay, so I'll pull out, and then I'm going to use the Salem blue over the top of the green. I thought that would be kind of a fun, chipped, I've been painted several times kind of color. And we're going to, once again, do that in the same exact up and down. Make sure you're going straight with your house lines and don't go straight with your edges of your building. And if you want to do some variation, you can do like some of this. We'll go ahead and do this like really thin. And then we'll go here and we'll go real thick. And then we'll go really thin. And that's how you can vary, is to do thick thin. Some of this isn't going to show because there's a big old star there. Okay, and then in order to get this down from up here, I'm going to turn my brush sideways and just put it on in big fat. We're going to end up shading and stuff like that up there anyway. And this is already cracking as well. Whoops, hi, big blob. If you got a big blob like that, I'd leave it and I'd go back and just sand it off. Okay, and now I need the roof color. All right, and the roof color is going to be graphite, and it's angled. And so I'm playing, and what's the first rule? Don't play. But I want it really thick, and I'm wanting it right where I want it. Totally playing. If this isn't thick, you're not going to see the cracks, so I am laying it on super thick. I want it to like crack wide open. Otherwise, I've wasted my time. Alright, and then we'll just let all that go. Alright, we're going to do his eyes. And I've got some ocean blue. And we're going to just make a stroke that just thins out on both sides of his eyes. Got to flip him over. And ocean blue is important because it will actually base coat. It's a blue that's like vibrant, but it will actually cover. And I'm going to go back in and fix that eye up with a little bit of black. So if you mess something up, just know that you can go back to the base color before and fix it. Alright, I want that bottom to be thicker. Oops, hi. We're going to give him a little white in his eyes. And then right under, we're going to take some Blue Haven, and we'll go ahead and highlight that. It's almost like a dry brush. We'll do both eyes. Alright, and we'll give him the whites of his eyes up here. A little bit stronger. And then we're going to give him another one down over here, off to the side. And then if we point our brush up, I think I'm going to switch to a skinnier brush. Get my Raphael going. And if we do that just right, then we can shoot a nice big shine in his eye. And now he's got a little bit of sparkle going on. Then we'll go into our black, and we'll thin that with some water. And then we'll do some detailing. Okay, so we'll come down the side. If I need to redo my sparkle, I will. Come down below the bottom. Come down the side. Steady hand. I always do a confident stroke more than like a right stroke. Okay, so now he's got a little bit of details to his eyes, and we'll give him some little eyelashes. Okay, so we'll get up here, and we'll get the top couple lashes going. And then we'll bend it down so that they're coming down the edge. And we'll repeat. Alright, so we're going to get some cheeks on his little face. We're going to get into Georgia clay and our dome brush, and we're going to rub, rub, rub as much off as you can. Like really, really, really a lot. Okay, and then you're going to go right in the middle where you want. You're always going to start in the strongest area. I've got to kind of move this so I can see what I'm doing. I'm going to go right through my elements again. And I had this cupped over so that I could film and keep the brush. So I think my brush is a little bit wetter the second time. Okay, so we want those cheeks just right under there, and then we'll go in and just do a little bit more right in the middle. Alright, so we're going to add a little bit of drop shading underneath the pieces of coal. And I've got the wrong brush for this. Okay, I'm going to switch to the short bright brush, and that's going to keep my nice tight little shade there. And this is going to help these look a little bit 3D. And you do them all to the same side. Don't follow it around. So they're all to the left lower bottom side. Okay, we're going to sink in his eye as well. Get him just a little bit. And then I think we'll go ahead and shade over here on this side of his eye, and I might have to reestablish his lashes with a little bit of black. And we want to sink his nose in. Alright, I'm going to highlight on the top side of the charcoal bits with a little bit of slate gray. Okay, and then we'll go in with our white and we'll give just a little bit of the highlight on the gray areas. And that should lift them right off. Okay, we're going to work on our nose. We're going to get some saffron. And we are going to do some little highlights in the sections of his nose. Give him a little bit of brightness. I don't know if I'm going to think that this is carroty enough or not, but we'll see in a minute. Now, in the meantime, because this is a smart way to work, I'm going to go ahead on my other elements that have the same color bases and do their highlights and shading too. Okay, so we've got our bird. We're going to want his head to be golden and coming down onto his wings. I'm going to keep these little guys real simple. And we'll just dry rub highlights. If you need to pick them up a little bit more, you can do a little bit more. And you could also mix a little bit of white into this color if you wanted to, just to brighten him even just a little bit more. And then we're going to do the same thing on his earmuff. And then we'll go on to the star and we'll treat that the same way. And let's see, I think I'm going to keep the highlights over to this side. So when you need to cover a larger area like that, you just scumble instead of just going back and forth. So you do little circles. And I do think that that needs to be brighter, so I'll go up a little bit with some white and the yellow. Just go like 1 to 1. And we'll just keep that highlight within the body of the other highlight. Okay, and then we'll go back and we'll do the same thing. And these guys will keep the highlight within. And I like to try to keep my highlights all kind of facing towards the center of a project, if I can. Or like he's looking at him, so I want my highlights to be kind of facing him, and that's not proper like light source, but to me it's proper direct my attention source. So I like to do it that way just because it connects all the dots. Okay, so then we're going to use some antique maroon on his little nose and shade it in using the short bright brush. And I've got to tell you, if you don't own a short bright brush, you need to own a short bright brush. These things, I have trashed the ever-loving snot out of these, and they just keep performing no matter what. I haven't even thrown a set away yet. They're amazing, 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 and they just have the best control. Anyway, so we're going to shade under, and I'm just going to do little short choppy strokes and finger blot. Alright, and then we'll do the same color, antique maroon, on his muffs. And you notice I'm just patting it on, and then I smear it around and get it where I want it. And every now and again, you take out a big old mop and just give you a little mop. Okay, and we'll do the other side. I'll wait to do underneath until that dries. In the meantime, I'll move on to my bird. It's so fun to watch things take shape and form when you just add a little bit of color and suddenly they become like dimensional. That is the neatest thing. I think that's what I like about painting, is you just have a lot of power to create. Okay, and then we want his little belly to be shaded. I need to shade underneath here, let it fade, and then bring it down around the corner. And we'll do the same thing coming over the back of his head. We'll bring it out a little bit thicker here. And flip around and shade under his wing. And shade between his tail feathers. And then we'll go back one step and go get the top of those earmuffs. And then the star. I've got my dog in here with me, and he's starting to beg to get out. Okay, so I think I'm going to want to leave that just a little choppier than that. It's a little bit too smooth for me, so I think I'll go back at the end and add a little bit of chop stuff, but we'll see where we get. Okay, I'm going to try something different, and I don't even know if it's going to work. So I'm going to take Purple Rain, which is a bright little purple, and I'm going to treat it as if it's shading my black areas. So I'm going to put hints of it, and I wiped off too much. Apparently it's not going to show very well. Put hints of it in the shadow area, kind of for visual interest. Okay, and I can see it, but I can't see it very well. Just kind of get that in there. Yeah, I can see that. And then I'll do the same thing up here on the hat. And I'm not going to worry about in these corners where the snow is going to be. Get this little corner. Okay, I think I can dig it. Don't go back in rubbing when your paint is still wet because you'll remove it. Okay, now I'm going to use my blue as the highlight. I'm going to use Peacock Blue. And I need a fresh lighting spot here. Okay, and we'll keep our highlights over here. Just build. See what we think about that. And then we'll go into the brighter, which is the Indian turquoise. Okay, now put our star up there. And it's kind of cute. Okay, I think I'd like this a little smoother, so go for a little bit stronger highlight. And I'll wipe some off and go back into my peacock and spread that out just a little bit more. Okay, and then we'll have to come down here on the brim of the hat. If you lose little bristles, don't worry about it, just wipe them away. Okay, and on our brim we'll come over here. Give them a brim. We'll reinforce it. And then we'll go in with our Indian turquoise and give him just that brighter highlight. Okay, I think I can dig it. Alright, and then maybe we want to go just a little bit more with our chisel edge of our brush. And our star. Okay. Alright, and we're going to repeat on our penguin the same way. So we'll go into the Purple Rain. Okay, so we know he's going to be shaded down here, bottom of him. I don't want to get into my onto my white too much, so I'll get out some stretchy tape. This is tape, so tape isn't just to make bands and stuff like that, it is also to protect. So what I will do is I will bend and stretch same time, and then I can tape a curved areas. So when I'm doing my Purple Rain over here, as long as I stay on the tape, I'm going to be great. Okay, and then I think I'll probably go ahead and float on that wing. So we dry rub where we need big floats, and we float where we can fit just a little brush. We'll do the same thing next to his arm. You can also combine the two of these. You can go ahead and float first to get real close to your area, and then dry rub out. And then we'll go ahead and do next to his earmuff. And then we'll move into our highlights. So I'll use the big brush and the peacock. Okay, we're going to go with our peacock on the body. And we'll try just a little. I actually think I'm going to check that in the wash and switch to my skinny brush with Indian turquoise. And we'll just brighten that up just a little bit. Okay, I think that gives our little jazz to our little penguin. Alright, we are going to shade the penguin's white areas. I need a mop for this, I sense. White is always a really tricky color to float on top of. So get out one of these little, very controlling little mops to keep that real clean looking. And I'll let that dry before I finish that side. And so when you mop, you always mop from the clean area in. And then you wipe it off on your paper towel. And you can use a little wet spot if you feel like you need to. And I'll take that hair away once it dries. Okay, and then we'll come down the sides. Get right up next to that edge. Round that out. Don't want any ghosting. And we'll do the other side. Alright, we're going to dry rub his cheeks, just like we did the snowman. And I'm going to do it now before I get my last base coat on, so that I don't have to worry about getting it on stuff. Make him have nice, big, rosy cheeks. Is that enough? Maybe a little bit more. Really spend some time wiping that brush off. Really, yeah, that's a little bit of powder right there. I want it to be obvious enough that it's blush and not just an accident and a little bit of a faux pas. Okay. Alright, we're going to shade the bottom of the penguin's eyes with cobalt blue. Maybe a second time. Get a little bit of a glare going on here. Alright, we're going to put his highlights up in these corners. And then we'll give him another highlight down here. And we'll give him a little bit of eye sparkle. Alright, now I've got my Raphael, and we'll make some big, beautiful eyelashes, which just really frame the little eyes. And that just makes them sweet and awesome. Alright, next we're going to highlight his little beak with some saffron. And get it right up next to the edge there. And we'll go saffron plus the white. Just a little bit more. Okay, and then we'll go in with our float of antique maroon. I can dig into my drying paint. Okay, we're going to add a little nostril, just on the side. Alright, we're going to highlight our star next to the edge with the saffron. And I'm smudging into my lead color, so I don't want to do that. Left it just a little bit rough. Okay, and then just a little bit with the white and the saffron. Okay, I think that's enough. Okay, and then we'll shade this far side with more water. And shade it up. And get ourselves a little mop. And then we'll shade to indicate this raised area. Let's go ahead and get that darker. We'll flip it. You should never paint with your brush loaded away from you, which is exactly what I'm doing right now. Don't do what I do. You do the same up here. Just walk it out. And then I'm doing it wrong again. Okay. And then I think we'll go ahead and just kind of line float right down our little edge there. Okay. Alright, it's time to get the details done on our little birdhouse. See if I can add this straight down without lines. Okay, I'm using the uniform blue, and then we'll shade underneath. And you know, I think I'm going to need to change this plan. I'm going to go into zinc and shade with zinc instead. The uniform blue is going to make this look like a carnival. Okay, and then we'll go ahead and go down this side of the house as well. Oops, into the blue. And then let's just draw this down at the top. Let's shade first and then draw it down. And do the same thing over here on this side. Okay, we're going to go into our slate gray, and we're going to just scratch on a little bit of distressing kind of, oops, hi, not that much. Just a little bit of gray highlight, and just to bring that down. It's in our blue family, but it's not. So one of the things that is interesting, I think, we'll do a little lesson on color theory here. So we've got our piece here, we've got our piece here. Okay, so we've got this blue here, we've got this blue here, and then when we come up to the top of our snowman, we've got blue in our eyes, we've got a blue bird, and we've got this teal color. So what's happening here is we're walking our color around the piece. So if you have just an isolated color like in the scarf, and that's the only place you've used that, then it's going to stick out like really vibrantly and very strong. So by walking our colors around, keeping our golds similar in the snowman's nose, the star on the hat, all of that, then it's bringing our colors all the way through the piece, and that makes for good harmony, and it helps your eye flow around the piece easier. Alright, we're going to take our honey brown and we're going to mix it with some of our white, and maybe a little more honey brown, and find our towel. And we're going to do some just dry rubbing up and down. Some streaks are good. Let's get a little bit of white. A little bit more white. Alright, we're going to take some asphaltum brown, and we're going to just go ahead and shade the pole. Shade it down just a little bit, and shade where it goes into the snow. And shade up, especially if I plan on putting some snow heap down there. And then we'll go ahead and shade to either side. Shade. We're going to mix some asphaltum with our honey brown, and we're going to line this side of the bird hole. And then we'll take some honey brown and we'll give ourselves a little stem. Okay, so we're going to shade our stem here. Under stem, it's peg, whatever we're going to call that. And we'll shade that end of it as well. And we'll shade the bottom. And then we'll give it a little highlight with a dry brush of honey plus a little bit of white. And there. Okay, so we're going to shade our roof. I'm going to shade it in the corner up to the bird. And mop the ever-loving snot out of it. Okay, knock over some paint. And we'll shade underneath the eave. And then we're going to highlight. We'll take a little bit of our slate gray and just kind of bring that highlight across and over. This is a really weathered little birdhouse, or birdhouse, thank you. Painting and talking, can't do both at the same time. Okay, so we want that just to be really kind of rustic looking. And then I think we need to add, I'm going to add a little bit of slate and a little bit of zinc. And let's add a little bit of shingles. that looks like a cute little shingled house. Alright, and then we'll highlight the edges with, I think, we'll go into just the slate and give it just a little bit of a highlighted edge, but dry brushed so that it's not too base coaty. And I think that'll do it. Alright, before I can do my greenery, I've got to get some shaken paint. Alright, we're going to dry rub some peony pink up here on our red, and it's not showing at all. I have to rethink this color or find the part with the pigment in it. And then we'll go into melon, which also looks like it needs to be shaken. Okay, I'm not certain I'm a fan of these colors. Alright, I'm going to go back over with coral blush, and that'll give it a little bit less of a blue look and a little bit more of a orange leaning. I'll go one more time. Maybe we'll do it a little bit scratchy. That's much better. And I'm going to find my paintbrushes. We're getting to that part of the project where everything starts getting real messy. Okay, we're going to do Antique Maroon as our shade. And then we're going to walk that puppy in and mop it. And we'll probably have to repeat because that's not quite, we'll probably go to black, soft black. But we can do this color first. And walk it in a little bit. Got the end of my brush dirty. So that's when you use the finger eraser. Okay, and I'm going to probably go ahead and repeat just real heavy on this side. It's better. Finger eraser. And then we'll go into a little bit of soft black. Oh, black plum. And oh, I have soft black out too. I'll get it together. I think I'm going to go with soft black so that it's not so purpley. And I'm going to need to wait until these dry. Alright, I got it dry. We'll go over here and we'll just increase the shading and walk that out just a teeny bit. And do the other side. Okay, and then I've got to decide, I don't think we're quite shiny enough looking, so I think we'll take our highlight color, the coral blush, and I think what we'll do is we'll give it some kind of streaks, and then we'll go in with a little bit of white plus the coral blush. And add just a little bit more. And I think that'll do it. Okay, because I've got this cutout green right here, I've got to make these greens look a little bit like this cutout. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to slip slap to create kind of the same kind of form and give them the same body. loosely, kind of. Let's get him to drop down a little bit over here. And then in the meantime, now that I have my paintbrush, we're going to go ahead and add some greens to under his hat and his forehead. And we'll just line that with a fairly heavy first line. Okay, and I'm going to take this moment while I've got my liner brush out to go ahead and give him his eyebrows. And then we've got our greenery, and I think he looks so cute with that green sticking out around his face. So we've got that done with our evergreen, and then we're going to go into the next green, which is, looking for it, leaf green. Okay, now the leaf green, what we'll do is we'll take that up. Big projects are very hard to film. Okay, we'll take this up and we'll build this in the same area. Making sure to go off the beaten path there. And then we're going to highlight these guys too. Let me do one of those on camera for you. I don't know that this is going to show up very well, but it'll give it some of that same color. Shows up. Okay. We're going to repeat with some mistletoe. Okay, so we'll do this guy right here. And then up here, this will be like our second trim piece. And that'll start really showing up. And then our final color is Pistachio Mint. And I'm suspecting that this is going to kind of scream off the charts here. It's very light, so I'm going to use it a little sparingly. Just to add on the dark, I think. I don't think I need it over there on the light stuff. It does help to break up some of the dark. And maybe just a couple in here. See, what it's going to do is it's going to look like I've lined through and I've got my base coat running through it. So I think I will keep it on the dark. Alright, I'm going to do my little tags with these beautiful little Christmas blue papers. So what I'll do is I'll take my scissors and I'll cut bigger sections than I need. So like the neat thing about papers is you can go ahead and just use all your scrap until you use it up. So I'll cut the piece that I need. And then I'm going to apply the Decoupage Matte Medium. I like matte because you can still paint over the top of it. I'll apply it to my surface. And then we apply it to the back of the paper. So, and then you position. And then what we're going to do is we're going to let it dry. Some of these matter if they're straight and some of them don't. So I'll bray it down with my finger or the back of a spoon. I've got a little paint lid I like for this. And I'll just kind of crease the edges. And we won't do the top until it all dries because otherwise it has a tendency to buckle. So bray it, crease the edges. Okay, and we'll let all of them dry. And I'll just repeat with the other choices. Alright, we're going to put a couple berries up there. I'm just going to use the corner of my pinky. You've got fake nails. This won't work. You'll have to use the end of a brush or something. Let's do one more over here. A gathering there. Alright, I'm going to add a little bit of that greenery over here to the green, to the birdhouse, because I don't have any green over here, and I think it's going to look a little bit better to have that color carry around like I was talking about. So we'll put a little bit of green coming out of there. Bird's got to sleep on a nice soft bed of greenery. Alright, we've got some lovely little cable knit stencils. So to get our highlight on our mitten, we're going to go ahead and just dry rub the pattern on. And then we'll go into white plus, that's with coral blush. And we'll build a highlight up the middle, and then white only. And there we get our perfect little cable knit, and then we'll do some shading and stuff like that after. Now I want to do this a little bit shape following over here. So I'm going to tilt it. And then we'll just do a little gather point there. Alright, the way we're going to get our paper off of this is we're going to take our rough sanding disc and just sand on the edge. And then what happens is the paper just pulls right away, and any extra scrap that you get, you just sand that off too. And a super slick way of getting it perfectly on your piece of wood. Okay, aren't these just darling little tags? Oh my gosh, they look so cute. So just a neat thing that you can do with any kind of tag that you want to decorate with. Alright, on my scarf, on the penguin scarf, I'm going to go for a little bit darker ribbing. And I'm going to go in between the polka dots. Just dry rub that in. And I've got a mix of the Indian turquoise and the peacock teal. Okay, and I didn't center that enough. Okay, and I think I want to go just peacock teal at the edges. Get it off of his nose. This is when you take out your little Q-tips, little pointy, very hard cotton swabs, and clean them up. There we go. Okay, and now we'll see what we have going on there. Finish that up. And now I'm going to do the polka dots in another color. So I'm going to do that just in white. Yeah, it looks really cute. Oops. Keep you on camera. Okay, and then what we'll do is we'll take and we'll shade him. So we'll shade our scarf using the peacock teal. And then I'll kind of unify the colors together. Keep it out of his face. We'll shade down the scarf as well. And shade. Cute, cute, cute. We're going to dry rub with white to give us just the folds of the scarf. And we're going to need a little bit more white. Okay, and then we need to give ourselves a little bit of little scarfy fringe stuff down here. So I would say we'll just take some white and just make these little kind of knotted fringes down there. Alright, we're going to take some pistachio and our dome stipple brush, and we're going to make some texture, some furry little texture on our muffs. As we get to the outside edges, we're going to mix into a mix of the mistletoe and just keep blending it until we like what we got. Okay, and then we will shade around the outside edges with evergreen. So cute. Okay, so we're going to base our beak with saffron. And if I can get it to stay, we'll put just a little highlight with white plus saffron. I'm going to base his eye in black, but I want to do a little experiment. I think I can make these. I don't think I can actually. So let's take a little bit of our saffron and make some little tail feathers for our little feathered friend. And let's give him some wing feathers too. Just a simple little birdie. Alright, we're going to try giving our little penguin a little bit of a hair day going on here. Yeah, I think that's cuter. Alright, we're going to, going to do coral blush on our bird for its highlights. I'm going to go ahead and go right over my eye, but it was easier to trace my eye, and I can rebase it than to lose it and to trace it again. So go up from the tips of the feathers. Make it nice and round. And then a little bit of coral blush and white. And really do the feathers at the bottoms. And you can add, make sure your brush is dry. I had that brush damp and dry a couple of times and it kept flooding out on me. So here we go. Add some white and pink coral blush, little feathers, just a little brush mix, simple little birdie. All of the beaks are going to get shaded with antique maroon. Just give them a teeny little float to anchor them to the face. And a little white highlight. Okay, and then we're going to shade the bird, since this is our red bird. I'm going to shade him with Antique Maroon. And let's see, we'll shade it over the top of his head, down his arm. Little cutie pie. Okay, I'm going to erase this graphite line before I shade under his wing. Okay, we're going to get this little birdie done. I'm balanced like a precarious load here. Got everything hanging off my table. Okay, so we're going to dry rub little birdie's belly with Blue Haven. And then we'll dry rub on his little wings. Dry rub his little face. And then from the tail back, we'll dry rub and let it be streaky. Okay, and then in case you're curious, I have a boatload of these dome stencil brushes. I just get them every time I can, and that way I have about 20 of them, and I can do a project like this in a row and a row and a row without waiting for my brushes to dry. So, and thankfully they're very cheap. Very, very, very affordable, we'll say. Okay, so now we'll take our shading, and we're going to use the Uniform Blue. And we'll go ahead and just come right down the side of our little bluebird. And we'll do his tail. We'll come down the other side. And I'll rinse. And I'll give him just a little teeny bit of a shade here. And then we'll give him, I think we'll go ahead and go into the Indian turquoise for his feathers. Yikes, let me get out far enough to be in far enough. Yeah, how about Indian turquoise plus white? There we go, cute little feathers. And then he can have some coming up his little arms as well. There we go, and now I'll rebase his little face features. Okay, we're gonna make his scarf a little bit of a combination. I'm gonna dry rub it with some Georgia clay. I want it to read a little bit more orange than red. And maybe orange plus Georgia clay. And get some shape and form to it first. How does this knot go? Okay, so that's a big old knot right here. I like the combination of that Georgia clay and that coral. A bit more drying. Okay, we'll do the same thing over here. Grabbing just go ahead and add some color out here. And I think on his mittens, let's take the Georgia clay and the coral blush mix, and let's stipple to make them like they're furry little mittens, like fuzzy. So we have that texture, but then we have this other texture going on. That's kind of neat. And then let's go coral blush, that mix, plus a little bit of white, and let's highlight. Kind of cute. Okay, I'll repeat on this other one. Alright, so we're going to do our coral blush and Georgia clay mix down the middle of the scarf with our stencil. Drying it off quite a bit. I don't want to make a big muddly mess. You can just kind of rub. And here's what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this up, and I think I'm going to go ahead and do white in there before I move it. See how that looks? Cool. And let's go ahead and give it a little bit of antique maroon on the edges. Stay off of your snowman. Let's see what that looks like. Okay, that's kind of cool. Alright, so now I'm going to move it to go with the flow here. I'll go ahead and do my antique maroon on the edge. And then I've got my coral blush and everything. Yeah, that looks really cool. And now we'll turn it again. Cool. Yeah, I love how that just tracks straight on down. Very, very cool. Just really adds dimension to it. Okay, and then I think on this scarf I'm going to go ahead and go straight up and down. And I am going to rotate it like I did on that other. So as we straighten out, I'm going to straighten out. So cute. Okay, and then I need to sketch on my knot. Alright, so we're going to shade our scarf. We're going to go into antique maroon. Shade around it up. Walk that in. It out. Angle shaders and short brights are what you want when you want to angle, when you want to round things out. And more paint. I'm almost out of this paint. So funny, I haven't used that in forever. And suddenly it's like my new favorite color. I don't know if you can tell, but my angle shader here is in really bad condition. As long as the tip is okay, I guess it's fine. Just kind of get that all outlined-y. And that sinks, when you do this, it sinks the stenciled bits under so that it doesn't look like so stenciled and so contrived. Alright, we're going to get this scarf with its final details, so we're going to go ahead and we'll put some dark, the antique maroon, and we'll just break the plane, and I'm using really thick paint. I'm just going to keep it clustered into little sections for each of these little jagged edges. Alright, in order to disguise where these little blobbles are, I'm going to go in at the ends and I'm just going to fringe the end with the mix of the Georgia clay and the coral blush. Just stick out just a few more little guys down there. And then just kind of, for whatever reason, it's doing a good job of disguising it or diffusing. And it doesn't make it look quite so dark. I put a couple on top too. Alright, before I start getting into glitter and glue and snowflakes and all the things, hey, that was really cute. I have to get this whole thing varnished, okay? I don't want to glue on my stuff, and I don't want to have, you know, things all everywhere before I get my varnish. So that's the very next thing we're going to get done, and make sure it's real dry before you start playing on top. Alright, I've got a jumbo dauber, and I'm going to take the stencil for the welcome word, and I'm going to hold it down, hopefully, and dauber on my word. I think a little piece of tape is going to be in my next letter. My fingers are getting in the way. Okay, and then we lift. Yeah, cute little guys. Alright, we're going to take thinned antique peacock teal and use our big round brush. And we're going to do drop shading with that teal just to bring that color around. And in this case, usually bridging doesn't bug me, but I'm not liking how white my bridging is looking, so I'm going to go ahead and just bring it all back together and fill it in. Just give it a little makeup. Alright, we're going to take our purple and we're going to just glaze and tint just here and there on tag, and then we'll take our short bright and a little bit of that uniform blue, and then we'll take that and just get it just a hint of the blue to bring it all the way into our color family. Now we have that lovely pattern, and we've got our teal and we've got our blues and purples. Alright, we're going to get out our glitter tray and catch our mess, and then what we're going to do is we're going to take our pearlescent embossing paste, and we're going to sprinkle some snowflakes on this base. Not everywhere, and I'm going to do dangerous things here. I'm going to move this with wet paste. Okay. Alright, now I've got that done. Now what I'm going to do is hold this over my tray. I'm going to sprinkle some glitter. snowflakes. This is the multifaceted, multi-crystal glitter mix. So the combination of the pearl and the snowflake shape and all of that is just going to add that just little bit of jazz to the bottom. And then we'll let that dry